Welcome to Give Me Hope with your host and author, Johanna Vendel. Come join the conversation as Johanna focuses on sharing impactful personal narratives of loss. Her platform provides a safe space for individuals to express themselves, find comfort, and build connections as they navigate their grief journey. So now, please welcome the host of Give Me Hope, Johanna Vendel.
Welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna, streaming live on Bold Brave Television today. You can watch multiple platforms. You can watch the show on multiple platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, iHeartRadio, and most major streaming platforms. Give Me Hope with Johanna is a podcast designed for everyone who has experienced the loss of a loved one. Today, I will be discussing with my guest in studio, grieving the dead while grieving the alive. So I want to share a bit about myself. I grew up in South Africa and attended Dispatch High School in Port Elizabeth, finishing school with my classmates in 1992. This is where my life started to take shape and also where I experienced my first loss in my life. I am one of 5 children, and I have lost my entire family before the age of 46. I lost my father to a heart attack in 1993, and then I lost my twin sister when she was giving birth, and she had a miscarriage, and then she had complications with preeclampsia. Then in 2011, my mom was shot in her bed. Although she survived that day, the stress and depression from everything that happened led to a stomach ulcer, and she passed away in February of 2012. After that, my 8-year-old daughter was invited to a friend for a play date. I was pregnant at the time with my 3rd child, and her mother said that she would be able to come pick her up before they go to church. Afterwards, they would go to their house and have a barbecue and a swim. When they arrived at the house, there were 4 robbers in the house, already busy vandalizing the house. They immediately tied them up and had knives and guns, and they told them if they made a sound that they would be killed. Then, after that, they left the house, and the robbers left them tied up in the house. So they had to struggle to first get themselves untied before they could get out and go look for help. They managed to untie themselves and walk to the nearest neighbor to call me to get my daughter. After we arrived, my daughter said, "Mommy, God was looking after us because I prayed the whole time that He would just keep us safe from all these robbers." Personally, I thanked God that day that she was okay. After that, I told my husband that he should find a job somewhere else in this world, but I need to get out of South Africa. I could not handle the stress anymore. My stress levels were through the roof. My husband, who has been working for this company now for many years, got an internal transfer, company transfer, for us to be able to move to America and give our children a better life. I could not be more grateful for this opportunity. So we arrived. We arrived 23 hours later from South Africa, and we landed in the United States of America on July 29th, 2016. I'm sorry. We needed to just start our lives from scratch. 2 weeks after we landed, my younger sister called me and told me that my big sister just passed away. I could not even say my goodbyes, and I could not go to the funeral. I had to watch it online. I was devastated. Then March 2020 arrived, and my little sister died in a car crash. I flew back for her funeral, but had to rush back before the gates closed on the 19th of March for COVID. So I needed to get back home. And not long after that, the same year of 2020, I lost my brother as well. Despite enduring all my heartaches, I stood strong in my faith with God, trusting that He will support me through everything that I have to go through. It can be difficult to convey one's messages and one's emotions to someone who has not experienced the loss of a loved one. Life becomes particularly challenging when these important people are not around for us. So, that is my story for today. If you want to watch or read my story, you can actually get it at Amazon. My book's name is Life Think Again, and I will speak about it later again. For now, I would like to welcome my guest in studio, Rashika Palmer, who is a practice manager at Specsavers in South Africa, battling rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. She is a mom, a wife, and has a strong faith centered around Jesus. Her grief began when she was only 17, when her father, who has been an alcoholic for many years, dismissed her claim of abuse. She lost her godmother when she was 18, and her biological father then passed away when she was 25. Rashika also most recently lost her mother, and she's really struggling with her health challenges. So let's welcome Rashika Palmer. Hello, Rashika.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Nice to have you. Do you want to maybe start where you can tell us a little bit more about grieving your father while he was still alive?
Yes, so that happened when I was 18 years old. I was in my grade 12 year. It's the final year of high school. I came to them and I explained to my father about a family member that abused me. It was a male, so you can just, use your imagination to where that goes to. Because my father was who he was, and he and that specific family member were best friends at that stage, he completely dismissed those claims. And it all basically, it went downhill from there. So at that day, my father died in my mind when he dismissed claims that his only daughter at that stage was abused by a family member. And to me, that was heart-wrenching.
I can just imagine that. Wow. Rashika, anything else that you would like to tell us about your dad?
In that same stage, it only got worse. So I was falling behind in school, sleeping in classes, until one specific teacher saw that I was sleeping in his class. He was actually my favorite teacher at that stage, my history teacher. He asked me the one day, Rashika, why aren't you listening in class? Why are you sleeping? And then I explained to him, it's just my father and myself at home. I need to take care of him. So he was, as I said, an alcoholic. So in the mornings, I would have to wake up at 4 o'clock. I mean, it's my final year of school. I need to prepare for exams, but I would have to wake up that early, play the wife in the house, take care after him, go to school, come back home, and still try in between in being a young child, a young adult in that sense.
Yes. Yes.
I then was put into hostel, and as I was in hostel, the one day I came home, my father had packed up the whole house in that week. When I came home, the only thing waiting for me was an empty house and a bottle of sour milk on the countertop. So not only had my father dismissed me with certain claims, he also left me to fend for myself in my final year of school. I had to get a job, work until 2 in the morning, write exams at 9 o'clock that same morning just to get by. I had to take care of myself. So not only that, that's how I started grieving him. Because to me, when you abandon your, might as well be dead in their eyes. So as that 18-year-old, I had to grieve my father because he died in my life at that
Yes.
stage.
And that was in your grade 12 year, correct?
Yes, everything in my grade 12 year.
I also remember you telling me that you had an aunt that came to dress you for prom when you had your matric dance in South Africa.
And she actually came at the right stage. The same day that I got home to the empty house was the day of my matric farewell prom in the US. So she helped me get dressed, as well as my youth pastors that stepped in at that stage. I really owe they really led me to Christ. So between them and my aunt at that stage in life, they all helped me get through it and helped me to see that there is only one way through, and that's through Christ. I had the choice to end up like my father, an alcoholic, but I chose not to. Life is all about choice. You can make that choice whether or not you want to turn to alcohol or if you want to turn to God. And I'm so glad I chose God, because today I am where I am purely because of him.
Amazing, amazing. Tell me a little bit more about when you wanted to attempt suicide and how did that change your life?
So at that stage, what happened was, as I was trying to attempt suicide, my mom had come into my room, knife in hand, trying to slit my wrist, if I can put it as that. She pulled me out of my room, went downstairs to where my father was actually sitting and drinking. And she pulled up my hand like this, and she showed him. She's like, "Look at what you're doing to your own daughter." This is just before he had left. And then everything broke loose. I just rambled on about well, you would have tried to commit suicide if no one in your family had believed you that you were abused, if you had been going through to what I have been going through to that extent. So at that stage, the only thing I thought about was just ending it all, because it did become too much. As I said, I was only 18 years old at that time. And for me, the end all would have been to take my own life. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad my mom had come into my room when she did.
Wow. Wow. And tell me a little, how did your life change after that? So this moment happened in your life and it didn't. And then tell us how your life changed after that. What went through your mind? Were you sorry that you were even thinking about doing that?
No. At that stage, when you go through something like that, I like to call it the dark pit. You don't think about anyone around you. You don't think about what repercussions your choice will make in someone else's life. So I didn't really see what I did wrong until my youth pastors, which is now family members, But until they showed me, what I did was actually wrong, and they helped me, go through this and find Christ. And we had alternative measures for me to try and deal with the pain instead of, resorting to another suicide attempt, instead of trying alcohol and drugs and stuff like that. So they really stepped in and showed me Jesus. They showed me that God is my Father, because at that moment, at that stage in my life, I was hesitant trusting another father. You tend to think of God, he's my heavenly Father, but what if he abandons me like my actual father on earth? So that is how my life changed, is when I realized that God's heart is for me and not against me, and that he really is my heavenly Father. And that's when I knew that, okay, there's more to this in life. My story will one day become a message, a testimony for other people.
Tell me a little bit, how old were you at that time?
It was in that same time frame. It was in my grade 12 year.
Oh, wow. Tell us a little bit about how your godmother played such a big role in your life.
So when I was younger, about grade 1, grade 2, my father and mother traveled a lot. So I stayed with her most of my primary and high school. She practically raised me. When we moved from one city to another, I then started living with my parents full time again. So maybe from grade 8, I moved back to my parents' house. So she raised me for most of my primary school life. So I grew up in her house. She didn't teach me a lot about the Lord, but she did teach me life skills, because she was a teacher. That was her role. She learned me how to study. She taught me what I can use in life. So for me, she was like my second mother, more than just a godmother or auntie. She literally was my second mom.
Wow. How long did you stay with her then, while your parents was traveling?
So in my grade 1 and grade 2 year, full time. And then after that, it was in between my parents' house and her house. In that time frame as well, my mom and dad got a divorce. So that's also, when I went from house to house. I house jumped a lot until about high school.
Wow. Wow. So she was part of your life basically from grade 1.
From I was born, basically,
Oh,
so she was always there, but I only stayed from her from grade 1.
okay. Wow. Previously, you also told me when we spoke before that your mother left, and left you all alone with your dad.
Yes. So what
Tell me a
happened
little bit more
was,
about that.
so she and my father had a very big argument, also in that matric year, and he actually chased her away. He told her, "You are no longer welcome in my house. You are no longer welcome in my life," and she had to leave us. And I think when you're that young, you don't really understand when adults fight, that it wasn't my mom's fault. He had chased her away. He's the one that said, "I don't want you here anymore," and she had to leave us. So that's when I had to take over her role as wife in the house, because if I didn't do it, there wasn't going to be anyone else that would.
And do you have siblings that you needed to take care of as well?
So I have an older sister, and she moved out, and the same time frame. And then for a while, I did have to look after my brother as well, because my mom, obviously, with no work, no income, she couldn't take care of him. And my younger sister, thankfully, was living with her own mother at that time. She was spared all this heartache, to which today I am grateful, in a sense that she never got to meet her dad, because she is spared the heartache and the pain that I had to go through. So my younger sister, she's the love of my life. And she was spared.
When did you know that you had a sister with another mother?
So we knew as soon as the auntie fell pregnant with her. My father was straightforward about it from the beginning. I remember my mom took it very hard because they were trying to work on their relationship at that stage. I was 14 years old when she was born. And we, had her for about 3 years back and forth on weekends. And then when we moved cities, she stayed with her mum, and we didn't see her. And I only got to know her 2 years ago, Reed.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us, you said so your mom left and left you all by yourself. When did you and your mom have a relationship at that time?
Not at that specific time, because I was angry with her. I didn't understand that her leaving wasn't her leaving, but rather her being kicked out. So I had to deal with that. And I was very, very angry with her because now she's leaving me with the alcoholic. She's leaving me with everything. Now I need to run a household while studying, while trying to just get through my final year of school. So there was no relationship at that stage. She came back as us when I tried to commit suicide. I don't know how that worked out, but she was back for a week and she was in the house at that specific moment. And then even after that, I was so mad at her because how could she do that? How could she stop me? How could she tell my father? After that, she left, and I didn't speak to her until the January after that. So that was in 2013. So in Jan 2014, and I would only speak to her maybe once a month. We had no connection at that stage. I had to work through my hatred towards my mom.
Wow. And then when did you reconnect where she was fully part of your life? Just the story of where you connected, and then we can speak about the rest after the next break.
We basically started connecting when I phoned her, telling her that I've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder called rheumatoid arthritis. And she was on the first bus here so that I can get to the hospital. And that's where her love for me just blossomed again, and mine for her, because now I needed my mom. I'm in hospital. This is a life sentence for me. And that's where we started to reconnect.
Okay. That is nice to hear. The life with your mom that you then had, and what happened in your mom's life, and was she single for a long time?
So she was in a relationship with a person for about 8 years afterwards. There were some personal things that I'm not comfortable sharing right now that happened. And I told my husband, okay, you better get into a car and go fetch my mother. I'm getting her. So we went, picked her up. She had 4 black bags and she stayed with us for a year. This was in about 2021 or 2022-ish. Then she lived with us, and in that time we actually reconnected quite a bit. We went through past emotions. Even though we've been talking and we've been, loving each other again, we had to have hard discussions. So she was single, living with us for that 1 year, and then she met my now dad. I call him my dad because he is he's really an amazing person, and he's my dad. He's not a father. He's not my stepdad. He's my step up dad. He is my daddy. So when I speak to him, I call him daddy. So they met each other on a dating website for Afrikaans speaking single people. I was very weary about this when she said, okay, this man is going to come and pick me up. I'm like, I don't trust this. You see all these weird things happening with people meeting on dating apps. So he came and he picked her up, and then they went out and they came back, and I had prepared a supper. And I looked him straight in the eyes and I looked at my mom and I'm like, wait, okay, I can see this. This is going to happen. So, you know, as how dads and moms would grill a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you know, beforehand, I did that with my dad. I asked him the most inappropriate questions you could. She had very good answers. So
you said to him, have her back by 10 o'clock.
That was part of the discussion, yes. I went as far as asking my mom to send me her location every time he would pick her up. So, because I wanted to make sure she's safe. Now, I don't trust men in the sense of, you know, having a new father, because I was very scared of this. And he has shown me fatherly love that I cannot explain to you. You know, if I'm to think with my biological father, when he wasn't drinking, he really was a decent man. Like, I mean, I really can't complain about him when he wasn't drinking. But the last years of his life, the last 10 years of his life that I could remember, he was almost always drunk. So I don't have good memories with him. And now Pa Jochie came and he gave me this new life, this new dad. I mean, I sit next to him with my head on his shoulder and I can cry. And even after my mom passed, he's still my dad. He never threw me away. When my living dad, he threw me away and he chose alcohol. And now this man who has no blood relation to me at all, after his wife died, he chose to still love me. He showed me what a dad is. My father-in-law is an amazing person, and he has been my fatherly role model since I can remember being in their household from 2014. And now I've only ever had my father-in-law be that dad for me. And I don't think he knows what he meant to me, him being there for me when I needed a shoulder, in the church, everywhere. And then all of a sudden my mom remarried and I have this another dad, and now I have two dads, from no dad to two.
That can love you again.
And having that was the best feeling in my life, knowing that I don't have to grieve a father figure. Because now I have two amazing father figures in my life, two men who are God-fearing me and who just teaches me more about God every single day.
And then eventually they got married.
They did. They would have been married for 2 years now in April. So the wedding was beautiful, and well, I don't think I'm allowed to say that because I planned the whole thing. So, but I did.
Sometimes we have to pat ourselves on the shoulder, hey.
But and you know, she wore my wedding dress. My mom, when you normally think about it, it's such an honor for a girl to wear her mom's dress. And looking back now, my mom wore my wedding dress to her final and last best wedding, and how I felt like this proud daughter seeing her get married and experiencing such joy after so many unhappy years. That opened up for me a whole new journey with my mom as well, being able to discuss what it is having a godly man by her side, a man who doesn't look into alcohol, a man who doesn't abuse her, a man who actually treats her with respect. That to me was, I mean, I've never fighting. When I grew up, it's all that I ever saw was pots and pans and knives and everything just being thrown around in the house, to this beautiful marriage that my mom had for the last year and a half of her life. That
Tell
to
me,
me was amazing.
Was she sick before she got married, or did she only recently became ill?
She wasn't really sick before she got married. She had COVID beforehand, and it turned into long COVID. So she never really got healed completely. So she was managing it, but unfortunately, it did take over her lung, and she grew an abscess which ruptured, causing her to pass away.
Wow. Wow. And when did she pass away?
May last year.
Oh, so it's just been recently.
It's
Oh.
not even been a year.
And what are you doing to cope with your grief?
I have a good support system. You know, that youth pastors I spoke about now became my brother and sister-in-law. And my sister-in-law, Johanna, has helped me tremendously coping with my grief. My mother-in-law, she's really been trying her best to be the mom for me. And of course, my husband has been my rock through this the entire time. And then you have my little child who's only 8 years old, and he would come to me and say, Mama, it's okay. I know Oma is with Jesus now, and she's not struggling to breathe, and she's healthy. So, and then I think about part of the scripture that says, the ones that are taken too early are being spared from what's to come. And then I think about it that God knew she wouldn't have been strong enough. And he allowed her to die before her time so that she's free from everything on earth, all the earthly stuff that has kept her behind for so long.
Have you also noticed that sometimes when people really find love and peace, their time is cut short?
And that's very sad. And I did notice it with her. That was one of the things that I was very angry with God about. I had a big fight with him, asking him, why would you take her when she just found love, when she just got happy? Why would you take her now? She's happy. She found you after not knowing you for so many years. And then you realize that sometimes when someone is at the peak of their relationship with God, in their health, in their mental health, you know, that's actually the best time for them to go. Then they don't have to suffer in this world anymore.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. And you are very involved in the church as well?
I have no choice. My father-in-law is a pastor. My husband is studying to become one. Brother-in-law is a pastor. So we're from a big line of pastors.
Wow.
But it's that I have no choice. It's that I really want to, because had it not been for this family, these people, I probably would have succeeded in a second suicide attempt. I probably would have turned out either an alcoholic or drug addict. So now I owe my life to Christ. And for me, working in church isn't work. It's a joy.
And that's how it should be, hey?
Absolutely. If you don't do it as a joy, why are you doing it? So, and we have a fantastic congregation that really helps. You know, when you fall in life, especially with grief, going through what I'm going through, they, especially that first 3 weeks, I don't think there was a day that no one messaged me. Everyone wanted to make sure I'm fine, that I'm going through it, and even though people do that, until they lose someone like a mum or someone very close to them, they don't really understand what you're going through. And you get to a point where it's just like, no, I'm okay. I'd rather not talk about it because people don't want to hear it. So you get to the short answer, how are you? I'm fine. I'm fine. And then it comes to a point where you start believing that you're fine, even though you're not. And then that's when you start crying your pillow wet at night. That's when you only rely on God and not people anymore for your healing, because you get to rock bottom only to realize that God is the rock at the bottom.
Yes. What I have also realized in my life, losing all my loved ones, is that everybody, when they find out that this person has passed away, will call you and say, I am sorry to hear about your loss. And I know people don't have words sometimes for people who have lost a loved one. But as soon as the funeral is over, it's almost like you have to go home. And that's when the actual grieving starts. And then they all gone.
It is like that, unfortunately. And I saw that with my mom as well. The moment the funeral was finished and all the stuff was packed up and we're on our way home, that's kind of where everything stopped. Then you truly rely on your small circle. That's when Bible study, when time with God really becomes part of your life, because if you don't do that, you won't be able to get through grief. If you don't trust God in helping you, and then you also need to realize that grief doesn't get better. You just know how to deal with it, and your life ends up building around your grief instead of, you not feeling it anymore. So I believe there's a day that's going to come where I truly laugh again, where I actually have smile lines when I smile, because I can't remember the last time I saw a sparkle in my eye while laughing. I showed a picture to one of my colleagues the other day, just before my mother died. She said, "Oh, you look so happy here." And I'm like, I was. That's a week before my life changed, before
Yeah.
everything flipped upside down.
Well, what I can definitely say is I also always just look at my children and look at how God has blessed me. And then sometimes you do have your questions, but I always stand back and first have a look at what God has blessed me with, because then we know that He's with us. He is with us
Mm.
all the time, even though we think He's not, and even though we cry so much and miss our people so much, we really know that He is there. Anna Vendel, and you are watching Give Me Hope with Johanna. We were busy speaking to Rashika about her story. If you're only tuning in now, maybe go back and watch the replay if you want to hear her whole story. Rashika, so thank you. Thank you so much for being on our show. I really appreciate you being here and telling us your story. And I pray that God will bless you and your family for many more years to come, so that you can have happy, happy more years, to have that smile back, and to be an example for people who is a strong individual like you.
Thank you for having me so much.
Thank you, Rashika. Well, this is amazing to hear stories like this. And we sometimes suffer alone with heartache and grief. And if you would like to come and tell your story to me, please feel welcome to email me. The email will appear on the screen shortly, where you can reach out to us and maybe come tell your story to me. I will really be grateful if you reach out and wanting to share your story. So I want to just tell you a little bit about my book. I have only recently also come through some of my heartaches, as I have said in the beginning. I have lost my entire family, my mom, dad, 3 sisters, and 1 brother. And how I started to feel that I could get through this was by writing down my thoughts. And I decided, you know what, let me write a book. So I wrote a book, and it's only published last year in May. And I saw something that there was a competition for enter your book for a competition. And I entered my book into the International Impact Book Awards last year. And I just won my International Impact Award for my book, Life, Think Again. And it's my life story, you know. After I've written it down, I can really tell you that I have overcome so much in my life. It is not easy to lose your loved ones. After this, I thought to myself, wow, Johanna, you wrote a book. Can you believe it? I wrote a book. In any case, my English teacher will be very happy to hear that I wrote a book, because my English in South Africa when I was in school was not good. Then I decided, I wonder what can I do to make people feel better? Because by carrying this grief by yourself is sometimes difficult. And how did I do it? I did a few things in my life to help me cope with all this loss, because as soon as I lose one person, I am in a different level of grief than I lose someone else. And after losing 6 people, I was literally in every single stage of grief that you can think of. So I wrote this book, Navigating Through Losses and Grief, Think Again. And navigating through losses and grief can be challenging. So this book provides valuable insights for the readers to maybe cope through their losses. It takes you through every single stage and a little bit of what I did to get through my stages. There will be a QR code on the screen as we speak, and you can scan this QR code if you would like to purchase my books, Navigating Through Losses or Grief, or maybe listen to my life story. And if you also want to maybe call into studio sometimes, the last few minutes of my show, I will always give an opportunity for someone to call in and ask a question or tell us a little bit about themselves. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have this platform for you to come and tell your stories. Because since I have been starting to tell my story, I cannot explain how my life has turned 180 degrees. I am Johanna Vendel, and I am your host for Give Me Hope with Johanna. I am looking forward to see you next week on this show. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Goodbye.
This has been Give Me Hope with your host, Johanna Vendel. Join Johanna each week and harness the transformative power of storytelling